I will take you to the moment of my sentencing. So, sitting in the courtroom in my early 20s, being told by a prosecutor that I was this dangerous threat to society, having already amassed three felony convictions on separate occasions, and she was pushing for she was successful in pushing for sentencing me as a prior and persistent career criminal, which allowed her to push for 20 years to life. So I'm sitting in this courtroom in my early 20s looking at 20 years to life and having this prosecutor paint this masterpiece of me being a person that needed to be thrown away, this threat to society. And
I want to interrupt you for 1 second. So up to now, your crimes have been all drug related, correct?
yeah, so it was a
You didn't
class.
kill anyone,
I
right?
didn't
Like,
kill
yeah,
anyone.
okay.
No, no. It was, and a lot of people, it was a class A drug trafficking charge, which is uh you know a more serious drug charge than innocently smoking and trying to keep up your smoking habit. And it involved multiple states and different types of drugs and guns. And so, the things that she was saying it wasn't as if she was fabricating things. But of course, it is the stroke of the brush that also makes a big impact. So it's how she was saying it and how she painted it. So she was saying truths, but then she was painting these truths as if I was irreparable. Um, and a class A is the highest class of felony. So even dangerous crimes are class A felony. So even though it was a drug crime, it was classified as being in the same category as dangerous crimes because of the impact and nature of the charge. So and but still a drug charge. But according to law, it is classified in the same sentencing arena as violent crimes. And so she was, painting the picture as, don't be mistaken, in order to be involved in this level of drug dealing, it is a violent business. So just because he didn't get caught for some type of violence, don't be mistaken, it's a violent crime. And so that's, the picture that she was painting. And she was saying that, this person is getting better at being a criminal. We caught him early and he just keeps getting better at being a criminal. So we need to throw him away for life. 20 years to life is what she was pushing for. And so I'm sitting here listening to this, and the judge eventually gives her sentence, and it's, 10 years. I get sentenced to 10 years. And I hear the judge say this, and it was kind of this out of body experience where, I was just in shock that I was, being sentenced to 10 years in prison. And I finally kind of came back to, and the first thing that I wanted to that I asked the judge is if I can hug my mother. And the judge denied me the opportunity to hug my mom, who at this time was bawling and in tears. And, I'm her youngest son and being sent away to prison. And the judge didn't offer me the civility and respect of a human being to go hug my grieving mother. And that, I say that because I stress that oftentimes when share my stories, because that was the beginning for me of understanding that I am no longer considered human. I no longer am afforded the things and civility that a person is afforded because I am a criminal that is subhuman. And then you go into incarceration, and I go into incarceration. You start your sentence immediately, and what's percolating in my brain is all these terrible things that I did that were painted as being this monster. So I go into prison just having been painted as a monster, and I believe that and I feel that. And then I go around other people who have similarly been painted in that light. And so that you get thrown into this environment where everyone has been told and feel as if they're irreparable monsters that don't need to be in society. So it ends up being like this very difficult and challenging environment to navigate. And, so, where did I, flip things up, right? Where did I, so it was, I paint that because it was just this like not this environment that change flipping scripts don't happen in this environment, right? It's not made to do that. It's made to break you down. And very much so in the early parts of my incarceration, I was like broken down. And I was fortunate enough to have this mentor step into my life that saw my talents and potential being used differently. And that was certainly a big part. I think what may have even been a bigger part of the activation energy for me to, flip it was my dad, who I had kind of lost contact with throughout making these poor decisions before getting incarcerated. His health plummeted, and over the course of about 2 years and multiple hospitalizations and surgeries, he ended up losing his battle with type 2 diabetes. And it was, dealing with the stages of grief. You have things like sadness, where you might cry because you feel sad. You can't do that in prison because crying could literally be dangerous. Uh, During grief, you might feel angry and want to just yell or yell at somebody. You can't do that in prison because that's literally dangerous. So like you can't go through the stages of grief. So I had to bottle this up, and a lot of people are bottling different emotions up, but for me, I channeled it into wanting to learn about diabetes. This mentor who has, helped facilitate this desire for me to learn about diabetes. And I read my first scientific article on diabetes inside, and I would literally dive into these very dense and difficult, reading on scientific articles, and it would afford me the opportunity that, even though my body was locked in a prison cell, my mind was roaming through the human cell. And in that way, I was free. And, the difficultness of it would lead me to be reading one article for weeks, even months. So it was this opportunity for me to free myself. And that was the flipping of my script, because I didn't know education was going to be, continuing my education was going to be in my future. But what I did know is that I didn't want to be that person that I was previously, and I wanted to be this different person. Um, so that was the moment. The mentor helped me believe that I could continue my education. So he's like, you have to do this, you have to do this. So we put together a number of applications when it was nearing time for me to be released. And I applied to, it took months and months to put these applications together for various different complications of being incarcerated. And very proudly, I felt very proud of putting these applications together. And it was almost immediately after like sending them off, just rejection after rejection after rejection. I was rejected from everywhere that I applied to, except for St. Louis University, where this mentor was on the admissions committee. So had I not had an internal person vouching for me, I'm not sure that I would, be here where I am. But I got in. I ended up completing my PhD and MBA simultaneously in 4 years. Ended up moving on from St. Louis University to Johns Hopkins, where I spent about 5 years, and then ended up moving on to Howard University, where I am now as an assistant professor and endocrine scientist.